Hello and welcome. I'm Craig Harrington, and today's topics are immediate policy actions which could save this country. Former U.S. Senator Fritz Hollings knows a bit about what it takes to run a government. He served in Congress for almost 40 years and was a major voice on important issues like government waste and free trade. As a long-serving Southern Democrat, you would think that the current administration would look to people like him for some policy guidance if they truly wanted to remove themselves from the failed doctrines of the Bush administration. Nonetheless, most of Senator Hollings' calls for correcting the economic meltdown have fallen on deaf ears. Hollings, first and foremost, recognizes the need for America to stop wasting so much money on consumer and government spending. It took the United States 206 years to accrue its first $1 trillion in debt. But from that point, 1982, to present day, we have added another $10 trillion in just 36 years. The Bush administration alone doubled the national debt during its 2 terms, and the Obama administration may watch the debt soar another 50% during its first stay in the White House. According to the Congressional Budget Office, of the Bush administration's debt accumulation, 15% can be attributed to accelerated government spending. Another 37% is due to wars and defense spending, which were never included in the Bush administration's official budget during his tenure. And an astounding 48% can be attributed to tax cuts alone. In the face of these facts, what has the Obama administration pledged to do? They've pledged to increase government spending, move wartime spending from one front to another without necessarily cutting the cost substantially, and they passed $310 billion in tax rebates in just their first year in office. The United States continues to feed this debt monster, regardless of the party in power, and the problem only gets worse from here. Our government is giving tax breaks as a means of boosting consumer spending. But with roughly 2/3 of all consumption being on foreign products, we should expect billions of dollars in tax rebates to be gift-wrapped and sent overseas. Government spending, consumer spending, personal and national debt accumulation, and rapidly rising unemployment threaten every facet of this economy. Yet nothing is being done to address these fundamental problems. Senator Hollings proposes several common-sense moves which could effectively stop the bleeding in the U.S. economy and which may, given some luck, get it back on the road to recovery. The first step will be implementing a 10% value-added tax to combat those practiced by more than 150 of the United States trading partners. The value-added tax is the most widely practiced and successful tax system in the world, and the United States is crippling itself by not holding one of its own. The VAT limits imports, levies revenue from the imports that it does not block, and encourages domestic industries to pick up the slack. The current and previous administration talked of protectionism, dampening the quality of life, and instigating a trade war. But the fact remains that the VAT has brought prosperity to every country which employs it. Otherwise, they would have abandoned it for a system which actually worked. The next step would be to penalize any company which sends production overseas. Those who have already located overseas should have that foreign profit taxed just as it would be here in the States. And any company which is in the process of moving or plans to move overseas should be penalized for doing so. The laws are not in existence at the moment, so Congress should get to work and write them. If it can turn a 3-page bailout proposal into a 410-page spending manifesto, it can produce some tax policies on outsourcing. The next step would be to put an import quota on automobiles and automobile parts. The U.S. government scoffed at the idea of helping domestic auto manufacturers with tax provisions or direct outlays. Yet every year, states grant hundreds of millions of dollars to foreign automakers like Nissan, Toyota, Honda, BMW, and many others. If we gave the same provisions to our own companies instead of to their rivals, perhaps our companies would be able to compete in global markets with the so-called superior foreign counterparts. Finally, the Secretary of Commerce would be asked to actually do his job and put together an industrial policy for future growth and innovation while strengthening America's economic security. Right now, the United States imports many of the components it needs for its own military operations, in spite of the fact that the Commerce Department has a list of items which should be domestically produced for the sake of national security. The Commerce Secretary need only activate that list, and an industry would spring up right here in the United States to produce the machines and equipment used by our troops every day around the world. All of these policies would have the effect of either creating new wealth or raising funds from untapped revenue streams. Some would accomplish both. These policies are simple and straightforward. The American people would certainly support them, and any politician capable of passing such legislation would be a political hero. Why is our government continuing the bad policies of the past 30 years, instead of forging ahead with something new and innovative? The time for old-school tactics has come and gone. It is time for fresh thinking and new ideas in Washington. On behalf of concerned citizens, I'm Craig Carrington with economyandcrisis.org News.
Wake up, America! Open up your eyes! Wake up, America! Wake up!
Produced by economyandcrisis.org.